Well, Super Soul Sisters, today we're going to talk about flexible shoes. Just how flexible are you? Tough one. This is one of the things that is come out of the neuro-linguistic programming sector, effectively, I suppose you could say, where one of the fundamentals is that he who is most flexible wins. They determine the outcome, basically, at the end of the day. So if we're being really rigid, we are less likely to get the outcome that we actually are after. So it's a case of, you know, if we are being rigid, why are we being rigid? What's making us say it has to be done this way? Or I will only wear my rigid, you know, hardcore shoes, and I'm not going to bend. And I quite often find that the reason for that will be driven by a belief system, or that, you know, it'll be like, it's now touching their identity level. So it's like, I am, or it must be, you know, like they live from a place of shoulds, musts, have tos. They use language like that where it's really rigid. And so I remember I was talking about the hard and soft shoes. Have a look at that video, and that will sort of give you some indication of what I'm talking about here. But effectively, when people are really rigid, it can be really difficult to flow with that person, right? You know, and maybe you're that person, you know, and you've just got to, you know, fess up and say, oh, that might be me. Look, sometimes I have to say I've been there. So, you know, none of us are perfect. Sometimes if somebody, you know, has their toe treading shoes on and they've stepped on your territory, it just flares you up and you stand your ground and you just become rigid and inflexible in your argument, because you are your payoff. Remember the payoff shoes that I was talking about? Your payoff shoes are so hell-bent on you getting the result that you want that you lose your ability to be flexible, because you just see red, don't you? You just want to have it done your way. So one of the things, you know, that can be a challenge for people who are more on the rigid side is having this thing of, you know, flexibility. So we have to put on our flexible shoes, and sometimes we don't want to. And sometimes if we've come up against someone who is rigid, we actually have to be even more flexible than the other person, so that we can maneuver around them, so that we remain unaffected by them. So I would like to have it where all of us get to a point where we are completely unaffected by our circumstances. Well, I say completely, but to a large degree unaffected by our circumstances and also people, so that if someone or something tries to trigger you in a negative way, you are so emotionally resilient and so complete within yourself that you are stable. You've got your root shoes on. Remember, I was talking about that in the channel before. You might want to go watch that video too if you haven't watched it. But it's all about when you're so stable, it doesn't matter. But you're not an oak tree. I talk about an oak tree in that video, but you might need to be the bamboo. And the bamboo is very flexible. It goes with the wind, you know. So the Chinese metaphorical system of that is that, you know, the bamboos don't snap, they just move. Doesn't matter which way the wind's coming, you can shift and you know, change to what is required in order to be able to be more resilient. And we really, flexible shoes are really, really key to have, like, in order to survive in the world. You know, you can do, if someone's taken you by surprise and they are full on rigid and they've, you know, had their toe treading shoes on, they've tread on your toes, and you've now had a reaction and you've been triggered by them, identifying what it is, like breaking everything down, going through and going, okay, what was it that set me off? You know, how did they say it, etc., etc. What was it that got me into the state where I just, you know, had this reaction? And then you can be flexible about how you can go, right, I'm going to put my flexible shoes on and go, right, how could I handle that better? How could I have it where you know, there's a positive outcome for both of us, or all of us, whatever the case might be. You know, so start thinking. You've got to kind of like think outside the square almost. And I think I'm going to, you know, that's going to be one of the videos that I'm also going to do, is like that ability to actually do that, where you can do that. And the whole concept around the flexibility is exactly that. It's like, just how flexible are you? And you'll know this because you'll have a reaction. And when you have a reaction to something, you go, well, did I contribute to my reaction somehow? Was it because, you know, like, for example, it might be that, I don't know, let's take a person who didn't want to do something and really kind of had to do it. And like, they were like, I'm just trying to think of, like being flexible, like, okay, I'm going to think of like my daughter, okay, with her eating, okay, she sometimes has this propensity for not eating all her vegetables on her plate, and mama wants to have her eat all her vegetables on her plate, right? Of course, because I want to keep her healthy. Right, now I could go guns blazing and just have a go at her and say, look, you're not getting up from the table until you've had this, and that's treading on her toes, you know. It's not respectful of her map of the world. She's not wanting to eat her vegetables. So how can we have it where that would be beneficial and we both get the positive outcomes? So the flexible side of me, you know, I have to put on my flexibility shoes and go, okay, I noticed you didn't have your broccoli, sweetheart, you know, and I'm going to talk about the what and how shoes in a bit, but it's the whole thing of, she doesn't want to eat cooked broccoli. That's what I discovered. So I presented to her, I got flexible and I said, okay, well, will you have the cold broccoli, like, you know, just chopped broccoli out of the fridge with a dip? And she said yes. So I've now got her eating probably raw, which is probably better, to be honest, having dips. And she still, I got flexible in that. I had to put on my flexibility because I've got to tell you, a bit of a pain. You know, you're doing this big work day, you do the food, and then she doesn't eat it, and you're like, you know. So I knew I was having a reaction, and instead of like being inflexible, I thought, right, okay, how can we have it where there's a win-win? Yeah, you know, where she does have it, and it's still going to be healthy for her. And, you know, even better because she's having a healthy dip that goes with it. So what a bonus, right? So I would like you to think about when do you not put on your flexible shoes, and when could you? Okay, so just have a little think about it today or now if you can, because I know that you get busy in your day like us busy ladies do, you know, and we go into overwhelm, and we just go, oh crap-a-roonies, you know, I haven't done that, and I haven't done it again, and I haven't done it at all. Get flexible with your timeline and go, right, I'm going to allocate my me time so that I can take the next step to improving me. We were talking about that the other day, weren't we, you know, in one of the other videos, about taking that next step and making that space so that you can take that next step. So what can you think of right now after you've shut this, you know, YouTube video down or Facebook video, and listen to the end of it, and you start doing this exercise? Where could I be more flexible? And is it, maybe it's with one of my kids or both of my kids, maybe it's with my husband or my partner, maybe it's with my, you know, with my boss or one of my peers, or maybe it's like, do you know what, I'm always having loggerheads, you know, we just clash and find out why, you know, maybe I need to, you know, understand them better. So I go and do some Vicki Jane channel or revisit some of the Vicki Jane channel stuff on the We Just Clash. Why is that? And, you know, getting an understanding of, oh, that's just because they're, you know, they're a big shoe wearer or a small shoe wearer, or it's that they this Enneagram number, or it's that, you know, whatever it is. And that if I change my approach, if I'm flexible enough, that actually I won't actually get triggered by that person anymore. I mean, what a bonus. Why wouldn't you want to do that? I mean, like, that is putting your inner soul and support in there, isn't it? It's like, that is working on yourself where you're not triggered by people that normally you would have been. I mean, that in itself would be gold, you know, right? So commit to that time of just thinking, where could I be more flexible? And if you want to share, I would love to know. Put it in the comments box, either in YouTube or in the Facebook, Vicki Jane channel. And just let's just start talking about what's working, what's not. Or if you want to DM me in the Facebook, group, feel free and do hashtag flexible shoes and just tell me what your challenge is, and then I'll address it in the shoes off what's really going on session. And I won't say your name unless you want me to. I'll just go, right, this was an issue that was presented, and here's some ideas of how you can maybe look at being more flexible. Here's some techniques or some ideas that you could actually implement so that you can become more emotionally resilient effectively at the end of the day. And if that sounds good, please thumbs up, like, share and subscribe if you haven't already, or join us in the Facebook group if you haven't already, because there's a whole bunch of wonderful super soul sisters all there on the same journey just like you. Anyway, you have a delightful day. Namaste.